What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Soulsborne video. If you guys are new, welcome. And today I am actually doing a podcast with a good friend of mine and fellow streamer. And we are both currently streaming live on Twitch at this moment. And so, Allied, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm AlliedBlade. Nothing too much for intro, just a simple, casual DS streamer who just loves to have fun. We're here having some good podcast time. First time I actually did this, so we'll see how things go. So, Chosen, to start things off with our first topic, how did you get into Souls games? What was your PvP experience? How did you kind of get around with all that?
So, how I originally got into the Soulsborne games was this was way back, probably 20, it was either 2011, 2012, and at that time it was the 360 PS3 era, and there was a lot of games back then that really don't have the challenge, and they really a lot of them didn't have the challenge they have currently. I think From Software has kind of brought that back to light, but for a while there was just a pollution of games that really didn't have much challenge or enough content to kind of keep you as a gamer interested in a long-term investment, if that makes sense. So me and my brother used to just run through games left and right, beat them left and right, and finally I got to the point where I kind of got irritated that was the case, and I started looking up on I basically Googled hard game for Xbox 360, because at the time I just had a 360. I mean, obviously I played on both consoles, but I was hard game for Xbox 360, and the first initial game that popped up on the search was actually it was Dark Souls, OG Dark Souls 1, and I'd never heard of it before. Souls games were so, and they still are, not very mainstream, if that makes sense. And I never heard of the game. I was like, Dark Souls, okay. I'm like, this game looks fairly cool. At first I was like, okay, the graphics, meh. They're all right. Nice backstab. They're all right, and then I kind of looked up pictures. I watched the guy do his kind of first playthrough, the first part of the game, and I just got interested because the Asylum Demon was originally the first boss of the game, and it was just such a giant boss, and people were having such a hard time with it. So that was my first intro to the game. I also looked up hey, there's an actual mechanic where you can actually invade people in this game, which I thought was actually pretty cool. My first PvP experience, I would say, I got invaded, of course, in DS1. I didn't hate this person for doing it or anything like that, which kind of has evolved into this stigma in a way. And it really sucks that that's the case, but yeah, I just was okay, it's a mechanic in the game, and on top of it, later I found out that it actually had lore implications. So that was even a better, nice super parry. Ooh. And it had better implications instead of it just being a random mechanic in the game, so.
Gotcha.
But I got invaded in DS1, I think it was down in the depths for my first time. I mean, obviously this guy just flat out killed me. I didn't know what I was doing. And that was my first PvP experience, really, because I tried to stay undead for a long time. How did I not get that? Wow, you are lucky. Miyazaki is shining on you. So yeah, I mean, I of course I died. I was like, okay, it is what it is. I can't expect so much, especially whenever I don't know exactly what I'm doing about the game and I'm new to it, right? So I just accepted it for what it was, and oh god, and just moved on, really. And then whenever DS2 came out, I got into DS1 probably around. Oh, hang on. Ooh. All right. We're good.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was like,
Go
my
ahead.
third Dragon Ring, man. um, and yeah, DS2 was like right around the corner, like about 6 to 8 months, away. Oh god.
I see.
And so I immediately after I knew that that was the case, I just kind of played through my first playthrough of DS1, and then I jumped into. Ooh, nice. Oh.
Oh, nice. But go ahead. You jumped in DS1.
I know. I'm like focusing.
GG.
GG's, bro.
Let me go ahead.
So I'm sorry, everybody, but I got into DS2, and like basically I hit the ground running in DS2. Like I knew what I was getting into. I knew the invasions were a thing. I knew PvP was a thing. So I jumped into DS2 and I started just, I did PvE of course first, and then I started just getting into invasions, and mostly it was the Bell Tower Covenant invasions per se, for a long time.
Gotcha.
Because getting cracked red eye orbs at the beginning, you don't understand how to get it. You don't even understand how to join the Brotherhood of Blood till you find the Token of Spite or manage to get one from killing a host. So DS2 was my first game that I started doing any kind of PvP in, and mind you, I still didn't kind of understand what I was doing. I had some kind of understanding about scaling, stuff like that. I didn't know anything about soft caps, hard caps, nothing. I just went in with what I had, and that was it, pretty much. And DS3 came around, and it was a different ball game for me, in a sense. Like, I really jumped into it, started learning everything, learning about soft caps, hard caps, a little bit of tech here and there. And I just experimented with pretty much everything in the game for years. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got started into the Soulsborne games, and where I started doing like the PvP invading and stuff like that. But what about you, Allied? How did you get into the Soulsborne games originally, and how did you get brought into the PvP?
Well, for me, I would kind of say there's like two parts to it. So first, I wasn't on PlayStation. I also started on Xbox because, for me, I mainly play a lot of Call of Duty and Halo back in the day. I love those games.
Yeah.
And some Minecraft here and there. So I, for the most part, have never heard about a Souls game. Like, if I was to tell my younger self what's a Souls game, my younger self would probably say, "Is that a Final Fantasy game? Is that a League of Legends game? Is this some kind of like role-playing game?" and whatnot.
Yeah.
And my younger self probably wouldn't really have like taken it serious. And the reason why is because one day when I was playing, I think Halo or something, my friend, who was like one of my, I guess you can say long-term Xbox friends, who was like one of the chillest dudes I know, he told me about Dark Souls 3. And I was like saying, "So what is that game?" He said, for the most part, from what I remember, it's a game where you play as a character who goes on this journey fighting bosses to link the first flame. And I'm just like, what is that? So after a while, he told me to go buy it, and I did. And long story short, let's just say on day one, I gave it the cold shoulder. Because I was at the High Wall of Lothric, and I remember getting invaded by somebody, and at the time, I had no idea what invasions were. So he, of course, killed us, and, I didn't basically like it. I said that this game looks, a bit too challenging, essentially, and it's probably not something I would like. So literally on day one, no joke, I gave it the cold shoulder. I took it back to GameStop and returned it. So how I got more into giving it a second chance was, one day I looked up some videos about DS3 after, more so I'd say after like just kind of like contemplating, and I can't remember the YouTuber or who it was, but I found some arena streams, and for the most part, it was people doing like, fights in PvP. And when I saw, believe it or not, the parry mechanic, like, this right here,
Yeah, that right
like
there.
literally doing this, I basically saw how they could stun someone. And I literally was just saying to myself, wow, that's actually kind of cool. You can actually literally negate a player's attack just from using your shield. And I said, you know what, Allied, maybe I should, kind of give it another shot. So after a while, I went back to GameStop, bought again, and lo and behold, he more so my friend who was like the main catalyst,
Yeah.
kind of showed me how to do like X, Y, and Z, what this is, what that is, told me about all the weapons and spells. And honestly, I was like, wow, this is a lot more fun than I realized. So basically, you could say the first part was I kind of like more so gave it the wrong view, not a fair chance. And the second part is like really more so finding another aspect of the game that can be more appealing. Because sometimes the truth is, for some games, you have to more so find a part of it that you enjoy. And I, at the time, didn't realize that we were enjoying PvP. So after I played on DS3, I went to DS1, and then eventually I played DS2, Bloodborne,
So essentially,
Sekiro.
you started from like DS3 then.
Basically, yeah, like everybody, like a lot of people did.
That's crazy. I just, I find it so crazy that I'm one of the very few, I wouldn't say very few, but, I've been around in the community for such a long time, and it's just a crazy aspect and a crazy thing to think about, I'm sorry to cut you off, though.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You didn't cut me off whatsoever. But yeah, I would say that's kind of my general rundown of like how I got into Souls. Now, in regards to PvP, this is where I say the main part of it kind of comes in. I was browsing through Twitch one day after doing the game like, let's say, 3 or 4 times or so, and like how most games are, you can only play the campaign but so much, or the story.
Yeah. Yep.
I found a streamer, and I'll never forget his name. Not sure if you've heard of him. His name was Nazgul of Angmar. And he was like literally one of the most chillest invaders I've ever met. Because at the time, like, I won't sugarcoat, I used to hate invasions. I thought invaders were, people here to ruin your playthrough. I thought invasions were kind of dumb, and for the most part, I really just didn't like them, even though I had played the game for a bit. So when I found him, it gave me a perspective and showed me the other side that, invaders aren't as bad as I claimed. So when I tried my best, or not my best, when I actually tried to do invasions myself, I was like, wow, invaders actually have it quite rough, and it's actually a whole different viewpoint when you see it from the other side. And Nazgul, as I said, was such a chill invader, and that's why for most of my invasions, I always tend to gesture or like tend to bow and everything. I'm not saying that you have to or anyone else does, but it's literally because I met him. So if I had to really, to kind of close this, would say, if I didn't meet Nazgul, I probably would never have gotten into invasions, for the most part. Or at least I would have, but maybe not as soon as I did. So that's kind of my main rundown as to how I got into Souls.
Okay. So, like, essentially, you picked up invasions from watching another chill person play, essentially, instead of just trying it yourself.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. And does this? I'm curious because I've never heard of this person before. Do they still stream or no?
Sadly, no.
Oh.
Nazgul stopped, I think, about roughly a few months later after I followed him. I think it's because he had a lot of IRL stuff going on, but yeah.
Okay.
If you would meet him, you would probably like just freaking like just see how awesome the guy is. But yeah, he doesn't stream anymore, sadly.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, because I was about to say I've been around inside the Twitch community a lot. I mean, at least in the past, I'd say year, and that's definitely not a name that I remember or even like really rings a bell.
Oh wow!
I'm surprised I got that, if I'm being completely honest.
Yep. All right, so I think that's kind of like our main rundown for that. Is there any other comments you want to say for your side, for your Souls game intro, or are you kind of good on that part?
So one thing I will say is, like, I think it's like cool how certain people like have different aspects on how they got into like just like the wow, that was awesome, that was damn good, that was great.
Oh man,
yeah,
nice.
Good shit.
But sorry, but go ahead, dude. Sorry about that. That was too good. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
about to say, yeah. Good game.
GG.
GG's, man. That was good. Great super parry. No, so I think it's crazy to hear certain people talk about like how they got into like invasions and just PvP in general because everybody's um, perspective is always like different. I understand that, but it's crazy to think that like you, for instance, you had a background where you essentially, you were the type that absolutely abhorred, invaders, and now
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
you've kind of done like a 180, and it like I said, it was way different for me because obviously I did my research and I knew that that was a thing in the game. In fact, that was kind of one of the things that intrigued me whenever I read that on Google was that you could be invaded by others. And I was like, what? I'm like, it has PvP? I'm like, okay. Now, granted, back then on OG DS1, it was way different because like the netcode, everything else. Trying to actually pair with somebody what I'll tell you what, like everybody that has never played OG DS1 and tried to connect with anyone, man, you guys are blessed, really, because it was horrible back in the day. Like, it was very bad. But yeah, I just thought it was cool that you basically did a 180 in that aspect, But that's pretty much all I got to say about it.
Okay, cool. So I guess like maybe to kind of dive into this a tiny bit, like how we've discussed slightly in our other chats about like those who hate invasions. If I had to start off with it, it's like how going off my point of hating invaders before. Some could
Yeah.
say that like quote unquote, you don't know what it's like to be invaded by someone when you're like close to a bonfire or an invader who runs or an invader who does like something trolly X, Y, and Z. But for the most part, let's just say in dealing with another player who halts your progress. And I would tell this person you're false. Because like I just said, I used to have that viewpoint when it comes to invasions.
Hmm.
And for the most part, I just say it kind of came from like playing games such as Halo or Call of Duty. You see there's more of like the term fairness per se. In
Yeah.
Dark Souls, with how cruel it is, it's not fair. So I kind of would say a lot of people who tend to have that viewpoint most likely play like essentially so-called fair games. And I would say for me, once I actually took the time to, see things from the other side, that's where, like case in point, when I took more of an appreciation for the game.
Yeah.
And the truth is, though, even if someone doesn't like invasions, because I get it, everyone is not the same. FromSoft, gives you like many options to avoid it, like playing offline mode. Because as we discussed, it's always frustrating when like we're fighting or invading, and these players just disconnect all because like they just don't want to fight someone. When
Yeah.
like
Yep.
they're next to a bonfire and they have nothing to lose. Like trust me, no one's going to tally how much you die in souls. I've died thousands of times. Literally, I can't even count.
That is exactly that. I mean, that's like nail on the head right there. I mean, of course, we've talked about this a lot on your stream, my stream. It's crazy to think that you don't have a weapon out, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It's crazy to
Oopsie.
me to think that oh, nice. Certain people just have of like invaders, and I mean, granted, it's been like this since OG DS1, man. It really has. Nothing has really changed, except for how invaders go about invading these days, and of course, there's a lot more people that are kind of getting into invasions these days, as opposed to like what it was back in the day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it really is something else whenever people get upset, whenever they get invaded. I mean, you obviously know that this is a mechanic in the game, but yet, you don't want to deal with it per se. And
Oops,
in
I broke my
fact,
weapon.
a lot of people actually want to have an opt-out option in the community, and I'm actually not for that. I'm not for that at all. Because if there was an opt-out option, we will never have invasions, or at least we won't have any
Oh yeah, I agree.
casual invasions. It will always be just the
Mm-hmm.
sweaty of sweaties, always always ganking. That's it. For the most part, like it would really stunt the activities for invaders per se as a whole in that regard, and it really sucks that would be the case. But it really would be in hindsight. It's like, yes, I understand everybody doesn't want to, nobody wants to deal with, nice super berry. Oh, that was a little too late. Nice. Oh, okay, got me.
Oh,
GG's.
it's
Good
GG.
game.
I actually broke my my sphere and everything, but it's all good. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. But yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead though, like you were saying about like the invasions.
I'm trying to think of exactly where I was going off of with that.
Like saying people like hating like the aspects of invasions without like I guess like trying or something.
Yeah, like people don't. It's crazy to me to think that certain people have never tried it, right? But they absolutely hate this mechanic, this what is offered to you in the game, and they automatically think that all invaders are just like griefers. They're there to halt progress and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not exactly the case in that instance. Not for invaders or the invader community as a whole, you know. But a lot of PvE players have this mindset that is the case, and to be completely honest, it's not. At least for the most part. I know a lot of people in this community. I mean, actually, on two different consoles that don't think like that at all. And whenever they invade because they want to fight multiple people. They want the chaotic nature and the different variety of variables mixed in with the PvP, as opposed to doing like duels and 1v1s where there's not anything else going on besides you and that one person.
Right.
It just, yeah. I think if, like with anything, I think people should try it before you knock it, and that's nice backstep. Look at you.
Yeah, kind of like with like with me, it's best like for the most part if they actually give it a fair chance and really take the time to actually like understand
Yes.
maybe tidbits of the lore and like really like dive into how Souls games is.
Nice.
Like I said, I hated Souls games. Oh no, like invasions. But
Yeah.
once I took the time to see it from the other side, I really appreciate it more because like you just said, the one thing I love about invasions compared to like lots of duels, I love the unpredictable nature. I love like how there can be lots of blues, or how there can be like a host falling off. Like remember that one time when you shot that host off with the arrow?
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
I mean,
like I love stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't experience stuff like that in a 1v1 scenario, or like a what's the word? Like a controlled PvP environment. It's not the case.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You won't run into something like that at all.
Nope. And it's like for the most part, and like for the most part, I know there's speed runners, I know there's challenge runners, and trust me, those are good. I've seen some really amazing things, like Midir. People have like done SL1 NG plus 7 on Midir. That's impressive.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that can only take the game but so far. A good example, Sekiro. I adored Sekiro. Great game of the year. I loved it. But Sekiro, can only go but so far because it's a story-only game. So it's like, Dark Souls, to me, I would say wouldn't be as much of a moneymaker as it is if it only had story and no invasions. Like that cop-out method you were talking about, if there was no invasion, if that was an option for invasions, no one would invade. Dark Souls would kind of die out, in my opinion.
Yes. Like, for longevity's sake, I feel like if there's an opt-out option, it will ruin the community. It really will. Like, and to touch on this, with that being said, with the opt-out option, right? Like I said, there's a lot of people in the community that actually kind of feel that way, and they're invaders too. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. To me, that just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't. And at least from where I stand on that, right?
Right.
But I understand. I understand where everybody's kind of coming from. I think you're dead. All right.
GG.
GG's.
Yeah.
But I understand where everybody's coming from with that aspect. You know, yes, dealing with people that just constantly disconnect and all that, that, don't get me wrong, that is annoying. It really is. However, that, you know, that's just kind of how it's, that's kind of how it's developed. You know, us as a community, that's how things kind of have gone. Back in the day, I don't, you know, I, of course I didn't invade as much even on DS1,
Mm-hmm.
but I did invade. But there was never this high, uh, not high, but there was never this like push in the community of like, oh, if you get invaded, disconnect, dashboard, you know, close the application. It wasn't like that back in the day, at least not as prominent as it is currently. Like it is, if you go on Reddit, for instance, I mean, and I don't want to
Right.
necessarily go down this rabbit hole, but if you go on
Yeah.
Reddit, for instance, you see a bunch of posts inside the Soulsborne communities and stuff like, not the PvP ones either. I'm talking about just the regular ones of people saying, "Oh, I'm getting invaded by these players and blah blah blah." These are new players, obviously, and then you'll have these veteran PvE players or whatever come in and be like, "Oh yeah, if you get invaded, just disconnect. You know, just disconnect." And it's like,
Wow.
it it does blow me away that that is what is, you know, basically practice these days in a lot of the community.
Yep.
So
So, yeah, so it's almost like how I touched upon this, and this will go into our next topic. It's like how if a new player, let's just say they bought DS3 to let's say 2017,
yeah,
and let's say they've been playing for a while, they get invaded and they DC. If they're new to the game and they're a bit overwhelmed, I would give them essentially just me more or less the benefit of the doubt because I understand. It's your
yes,
first time, you're probably a bit scared, but my main case in point would be once you get to like Central Irithyll before Gank City, you for the most part should know what you're getting into. At that point, it's literally no excuse. If you
right,
play the game for a good amount of like roughly, I say at the most 10 hours, maybe even 15 or so, you literally should know what you're getting into. And if you can't accept that, maybe it may take more game time for you to understand it, or maybe it'll just take like essentially more practice. So kind of like for the next topic here, check my notes. We were mentioning like what we were expecting out of like Elden Ring. So
yes,
here's how I'll start with this first.
okay,
What we know so far is that there is no solo invasions. They've
nice,
completely dropped the ball and just said we're
yes,
done doing that at the
yep,
moment.
that's done,
So the only
yes,
invasions we're going to get is just like two v twos or no 2v1s or 3v1s. That's it. And I know there's like open environment, so I believe there's like in touch upon this. I believe there's like no essential fog cheesing. I can't say, but my main comment for that would be like I feel they more so like with Dead by Daylight. They cater too much to the PvE side, to where they want everyone to have just a simple like I guess like casual, easy playthrough without kind of giving that discipline. Because look at DS2. DS2 is brutal. It is not forgiving at
yes,
all.
yes, I
And
agree with you
because
on
it
that.
isn't, it teaches you to adapt and be better. Like how we're playing here, you can't just like spam spells like Chaos Bed Vestige over and over and just have like the most like I say one-sided boring fight like known to man. This here, it
Nice.
gives you strategy. You have to learn how to really pace on what you want to do, and it makes things a lot more interesting. So I would say at least to kind of start, then I'll give it to you. One thing I want from Elden Ring the most, even though there's no co-op invasions, I just want it to be where at least both sides can have a benefit of like having good fun, but more or less kind of keep the balance in place, such as like if we're not going to have any co-invaders, make it
Right.
to where there's no seeds. Because why have a seed? If we can't get a co-invader, they need no more help. You know what I mean?
So
So what's your take on that?
let me touch up on this because obviously, so if for anybody who doesn't know, Allied is basically going to be going into Elden Ring blind, all right? And I'm going to try not to really spoil too much, at least nothing like crazy. But one things I will touch on that you just said,
Hmm.
here's the deal. So from what I've seen and from what I've heard, fog walling is still a thing. It's still in
Oh,
the
okay,
game. It's still in the game.
gotcha.
Like you said earlier, the solo. Ooh, that was nice. That would have actually got me if I would have stayed there. Um, there is, like you said, no more solo invasions, right? The only way that you're gonna get a solo invasion is if somebody uses essentially like the, an item like a dried finger, that wants to be invaded. Really, that's what it's
Gotcha.
gonna come down to. Now, however, there are co-invasions, all right, but they're in the forms of 2v2s. They're not like what we originally, um,
So
what
when you
we're
say
used to.
2v2s, sorry, go ahead.
So like what we're used to essentially, like we're used to running into three people, maybe three people, four people, against a two-man invader squad, right? Which is
Right.
awesome, and we're used to that. And in my opinion, I really like that aspect. I'm so used to that. I'm way way more comfortable with that, and I like that aspect because like it still puts the invaders at a disadvantage, and
Right. Yeah.
so it just ooh. So it still gives the difficulty. It still has the difficulty spike that we are looking for in terms of being invaders. At least that's kind of like what I look for whenever I'm an invader. I'm surprised I got that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I hear you.
So, oh
But keep it going though.
yeah. I lost my train of thought. But I'm trying to remember.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
I'm trying to
Just take your
remember.
time.
Anyways, but essentially, like Elden Ring's 2v2s it's got to be a 2v2, pretty much exactly that.
Right.
A host, a co-opper, and two invaders. But however, if you have a host has three people in the mix, you will not get a co-invader. You won't get a co-invader at all. Oh shit. Ooh, I hate that.
Sorry, I took it. So earlier before when you said 2v2, so will we have code invasions like from what I understand in the dungeons, or will there be like no code invasions like at all?
Apparently there's going to be co-invasions, at least from what I've seen. There's going to be co-invasions inside the overworld. There's going to be co-invasions and inside the dungeons as well. So another thing to note as well, like I told you earlier, is that the open world is going to be completely different. And essentially, I don't know if you know of the Phantom's Bloody Finger or not. It's basically an item that it has been put in the game now, where it will teleport you away from the group, essentially, or teleport you to the group if you spawn way too far away. So, and there's not really many fixed spawn points from kind of like what we've been shown. So that's always a good thing as well. So like nobody can really like just spawn camp invaders like the older games and stuff like that.
Right.
And on top of that, you have like a compass. So like if you're in the overworld, you're able to see exactly which direction the host is. However, a blue comes in, they can see exactly where you are as a red as well. Now that's another thing as well that I was telling you, because you're like there's not really any blues. They made it seem like there's no blues, right? There's not going to be any blues inside the game. There actually is. They just took solo invasions completely out for some reason. Which made absolutely no sense,
Right.
Because to touch on that aspect, right? Everybody and their brother was kind of putting out videos about their opinions about solo invasions and it being not a thing in Elden Ring. Wow, I missed my backstab and you get yours. And I didn't make a video on it because everybody and their brother has already made a video on it. Ratatosker made a video on it. Raven Ash made a video on it. Fell made a video on it. And that's GG's. And that's actually who I Mike, go ahead, kill me. By the way, this is supposed to be just 1v1's Allied, bro.
So I guess for the most part, chosen at least to kind of like continue or to
Mike, go
further
ahead,
dive
kill
into the
me.
topic. Um,
Or just Black Crystal out,
how
dude.
how do you think
Thank you.
like how do you think invasions might be? Because like the only thing, if I had to say like one quick sentence, the only thing I just worry is because remember it's taking like a Bloodborne route where you can only
Yes.
get invaded if you summon in someone to get the Bell Maiden. So I just wonder, will invasions be as active? Because technically speaking, in this aspect, someone more or less could beat the whole game without getting invaded, right? With how
Yes.
things are set.
Yes. And that that
Okay.
is that is exactly right. You could potentially just play the entire game solo and be online and never be invaded. So like I was saying earlier about the whole solo invasion thing, um, the person that I 100% agreed with was Fell in that regard because Fell made a good point. Like if if people complain about being invaded and you're solo, right? I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. You're like, oh, I got to deal with this invader. I understand. I mean, obviously they still have an advantage, right? I am sympathizing here, with solos. So it's not like I'm taking a total, you know, uh, biased route with the invader community in this aspect. Like if you get invaded as a solo, I understand it's kind of messed up that you got to deal with an invader, and obviously this person is way better than you and knows what they're doing. They probably have a twink build or something like that, really strong, and they have all this knowledge more than what you have, and you are probably just a brand new player. However,
Right.
you do have something at your disposal to kind of counteract that, and that is, putting on the way of Blue Covenant, and this has been present through DS2 and DS3. So this was like the counterbalance of dealing with a red that essentially invaded you,
Mm-hmm.
and if you were a
Mm-hmm.
solo, so it's like that way you have help. However, Elden Ring, like I said, made it seem like blues weren't even a thing. They were non-existent, and that's not the case at all. They just for all intended purposes, decided to just completely take solo invasions out of the equation these days. And I said it, and Fell said it, and I think a few other people in the community had said it as well. But this is essentially going to hurt the longevity of the game. It really is. And this also
Right.
falls back on what we were talking about in terms of like the disconnecting and all that, and the opt-in, opt-out. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's gonna be play another part as well. If they put that mechanic inside the game, it's not. It's going to hurt the game's overall longevity in the long run. Not up front, but in the long run, it definitely is.
Right. I guess like really quick to kind of like touch upon what you say with the blues. It's like how I've kind of commented. I won't make my post or anything, but
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, blues should literally only go to solo players. And with the
Yes.
equation of how it works and whatnot, if a solo host gets one blue, they just get one blue, because
Yes.
that's really all they need, just one blue. And it's just like with Dark Souls 3. It just never really made sense as like,
Nice.
ooh,
Nice.
nice. Um, it's like it just never really made sense to me how someone could have an overlevel phantom, two of them, and then I could invade. I have no co-invader. Not even 1 minute in, dude, they already get a blue. And let's say I finally kill one of the phantoms or the blue that comes in, they get another one in like the next 5 seconds. So I just feel like, I mean, granted to your point about dealing with a or an invader as a solo, they should have had it to where blues only come in for solo players,
Yes.
because the fact that like gang squads can get constant blues to me is like way too overboard.
Yes, I agree. And touching on that as well. So, and like I don't necessarily like to bring up bigger people because they already have all the. It's not out of disrespect or anything like that. It's just they have already notoriety. So it's like I don't need to necessarily bring them up. But
Right, right.
a good example of this was Prod invaded a guy in Elden Ring in the network test, and he fought he fought his Phantom. Actually, he fought two
Mm-hmm.
Phantoms, killed both Phantoms, and then the solo host was getting nothing but. Oh, hang on, let me use a repair powder. Was using the blues, the hunters. That's what they're called, hunters in Elden Ring,
Okay, gotcha.
and um, he was getting nothing but wave after wave after wave of blues. I mean, I think he killed like 5 or 6 fucking blues in that entire invasion,
Jeez.
and then he finally killed the host. I mean, they were coming in left and right. Like, so another thing that has not been fixed is just like um, all the other games whenever they have first initially come out is that there's no timer for
Ah, I see. I see.
summons for blues, none of that. It's the same shit, like same thing. Um,
So,
it is
so,
the
so based
exact
on what you're saying is like,
same thing. Sorry.
oh, sorry, like, so really quick, like, so from what you're saying, for the most part, they've taken away solo invasions, and Way of Blue was like a more or less solid thing. So, I feel if that's the case, why bother putting blue in the first place? If
Yes,
like more or less they'll get constant help. If they already like have initial help, why do they need more in
I
that
agree.
aspect?
I agree. That's kind of the same thing of like what you were talking about. How like you're like I feel like solos should be granted blues, not you know squads or gankers. I agree. And in that aspect, it just comes down to like, again, I feel like the invaders are still getting the short end of the stick, even though we got the Phantom's Bloody Finger item that lets us, teleport away and have certain
Hmm.
iframes whenever we use it. But still, it's like we're still getting kind of, in my opinion, getting the shaft.
So for the most part, we talked about the longevity of the game. So let's just say today is February 25th, and Elden Ring is like, going off the shelves like pancakes, whatever. Um, how long, or better yet, before I start with that, do you think DS3 will per se die, or do you think it may die down? How do you feel about that
Oh,
in terms of
so
DS3?
so in that regard, for those that don't know, I'm just kind of per se, I'm kind of done with DS3 in for the most part,
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people don't like to hear me say that, or they don't understand why. And I like I said, I've been in the community for a long time, so the whole glitches and everything like that, it's just become normal these days. And to a player like me, that was good. Um, those were frowned upon, and I mean they still are, really in the community. Now, granted, if you use them, if you are watching this, I'm not hating on you. You can do whatever you want to do. It's a game, You can do whatever it is that you want to necessarily do. However, you can't deny that these type of glitches are breaking the PvP, and the PvP itself, before the glitches were even a thing, was already unbalanced. So you are essentially making it way, way worse and unenjoyable for a certain amount of people. Um, but
Hmm.
back to what you asked initially, I feel like at least at the beginning of Elden Ring's life cycle, I feel like yes, DS3 is definitely gonna die down and maybe
Right.
completely die for maybe a few months or whatever. But I've also heard, from other people in the Soulsborne community, PvP community, that whenever Elden Ring comes out, that they're not even gonna go to it. They're not even gonna go over to it. They're just gonna stick with DS3, and that's fine. But you know that's how the community's been since OG Demon Souls, though. There's always been
Hmm.
parts of the community that get upset about the previous game, and they don't like certain uh, mechanics, or just the overall PvP, how it is in general, and they don't want to adapt. Essentially, I mean that's kind of like what it kind of boils down to. They don't want to adapt, and I mean
Gotcha.
that's fine, but still. But I think I covered that. For longevity's sake, though, I feel like DS3 maybe dead. long term, but it's hard to
Hmm.
say with Elden Ring's no solo invasions,
Mm-hmm. So for the most part, I guess me to kind of like at least kind of like wrap this part up. Do you think, at least, or in regards to Elden Ring, because I know some have said like when it comes out, it's going to be like the best game from FromSoft has made because like they're going to use all the aspects that they wanted to do before. Do you really think like it's going to be the greatest? If I had to make a quick comment about it, for me, and this is just like my own preference. I've seen people when the new trailer came out, they were just so hyped, like they were
yes,
shaking their computer screens, like dancing around, like just going like like bananas. And don't get me
right,
wrong, that is totally fine. If anyone here is completely excited for Elden Ring, by all means, don't continue your excitement. I, for the most part, am just staying neutral because I really, besides not watching the network test, I really want to see like what aspects, for the most part, like upfront,
nice,
of what they're going to introduce when it comes to invasions, PVE, the Covenant, if there will be spells and all that. I want to see like like the flavor of the game, and more so to see if it's going in the right direction.
yeah,
Because the truth is, as like potent and beautiful as this game can be, it for the most part could be like another Sekiro. With all due respect, I'm not trying to be a killjoy, but I'm just saying there is a chance that depending on what FromSoft does, uh, Elden Ring for the most part could kind of take a wrong turn if they don't more so like at least listen to like all sides of the community.
yes,
Invaders, PvEers, duelists, like everyone. Include everybody, not just like one side. If that makes sense.
right. No, I agree, but the problem is, and I think we both know this, is,
Mm-hmm.
From Software, like you stated earlier, they are more concerned with their money maker
GG.
and GG's and the bigger whole of the community, the PvE players. Um, Granted, yes, I would love it if they gave the invaders the invaders like more of a more attention. I like put it this way. In that regard, I said PvP. I didn't say PvPers. I said invaders. I didn't say duelists. Because I know there's certain aspects. I mean, certain people in the community or groups of people in the community that would love this to be like a quote unquote fighting simulator or whatever. That's never going to be
Right.
the case, and that's the reason why you know yes, there's quote unquote tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
on the Soulsborne games. All of them have had tournaments or whatever, right? But here's the problem: they'll never be big Bandai Namco exclusive, win $10,000, $20,000, because that's not what these games are intended for. So, that's just my opinion on that aspect. Um,
Gotcha.
so, I mean, I hope that kind of clarified like
Yeah.
what you were
Yeah,
saying,
I hear
bro.
you. Yeah, I just say for the most part though, like Elden Ring, like I'll put like how Dashing said it. I think he's kind of neutral, but at the same time, I'd rather not put words in his mouth. But I think for the most part, he did say that he's happy that a new Souls game is coming, and I am too. I'm definitely like
Right.
happy we're getting a new one, because the truth is, like I know like Ghost Hardware and some others, I think for the most part they're done with DS3, but they're only playing it out of spite. It's like they're only playing this game because it's like it's all they can really do for the time being until the game comes out.
Yes.
And to your point,
Yes.
like for me, I can't play DS3 anymore. The last stream I had of it was when I was doing like cosplay invasions, and basically for the most part, that was my last way of trying to cope with the game.
Right.
But it didn't help. Basically, if I had to give like a pretty funny
Oh hell no.
like analogy of it, yeah, I'm using it. It's basically how I was more so like essentially still drinking dirty water, but through a straw compared to the cup. Yeah,
Yeah.
granted, I was like doing something different. Nothing on the game itself really changed, and it just didn't work for me. So like all in all, this spell is so funny. This spell is so funny. But
GG's,
yeah,
man.
it's like GG. Like all in all though, that was the first part. But really, what the kicker was is after invading like the other areas, I kept dealing with so many passive gang squads, or not gang squads, like workers as they call them. They got way of blue. They don't leave the bonfire. Like they literally just like don't move.
Gonkers.
And they get blues after blues, and finally, when I went to Ponto just to see how it was, for the heck of it, I ran into I think I was a red, an Aldrich who was attacking me when I was attacking a Lap Phantom. And to add to it, I showed him I was a red and everything, but it seemed like he just wasn't getting in his head. And then the other Aldrich, for some reason, started to more or less join him. And then to top it off, the Lap Phantom was refilling. So
Wow.
I literally, for the most part, had like no kind of help. And even to this day, when I watched Rizio the other day, he had some invader who literally was not going to help him. He just sat
Right.
there and just like wasted his time. And I still don't understand. Like maybe some are trolling, but like if you don't understand your duty as a red or you want to sit around, literally just go to like either go to the arena or just do that somewhere else. Because I remember I told you this one time when somebody was it was in Ghost Chat. He was basically invading, and a co-invader came in or was already there, I think, and the co-invader I think killed him, and he asked him his co, why did you kill me? And he said, I killed you because I want to help out the host. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, if you want to help the host, put down your sign or be a blue. Don't sit here and essentially block an invasion slot. I don't do that. Yeah, I can be the friendly invader, my dude. Trust me, I can be. But when I get a co-invader, all bets are off. Simple as that. I don't care if we had like, tea, cupcakes, you name it, whatever. If I get a
Right.
co-invader, I'm not going to turn on them for petty little camaraderie. How like I forgot what his name was. You know how that guy said it. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the main reason, like the main fuse as to why I quit, or when I finished with DS3, dealing with just pure ineptitude, incompetence, and
Yeah,
overall, like
definitely
the game just not really being
incompetence.
fun. And I done what I could on it. I did lots of builds. I just didn't have much left to do. You know.
Oh,
But yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was gonna get that or
So I
not.
guess then that can feed into, I would say, the next topic. So because of like being in the Souls, how exactly did you get into streaming, Chosen? I'll give the mic to you for this one.
So how did I get
How did it all
into
start?
streaming? So like, oh yeah. All right. Stop it. Um. So initially, how did I get into streaming? Um. That that kind of played into me doing YouTube. Um. I was more so doing, let's say this. I was more into doing YouTube, doing videos, edits, stuff like that. I never really cared too much for streaming, if I'm being completely honest. But
Hmm.
what I didn't understand was, the ow, the community, man. Like the community, son of a bitch. The community is such a tight knit group, especially over here
Hmm.
on Twitch, that
Gotcha.
I didn't understand that was a thing, you know. So whenever I started streaming, I noticed that. I mean, it's way more tight knit over here than on like say YouTube or any other um, platform, at least from in my experience, whether it be social media, whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
I just decided I was like, well, I'm gonna start streaming since I already uh, do YouTube content,
I see. I
and
see.
it just kind of snowballed from there, really. But I started doing it a lot more when more and more people. I started getting connected with more and more people. Really, that's when I started really doing it a lot more. I thought that was gonna backstab, but all right. That
Oh
did
wow! So I can't get mine. Would you get yours?
though.
Whatever you were saying though.
um, but yeah, I just damn that tracking. But yeah, I started getting connected with more people and stuff like that, and that's kind of why I kept going, and I noticed that was like a big thing about Twitch as opposed to YouTube in a sense. Like yeah, YouTube if you have like viewers and stuff like that, cool. Oh, I think you're dead. Yep.
Nice. GG.
GG's. um, That's the difference between Twitch and YouTube, though. Is like I feel like there's just really a much more tight knit community, and everybody kind of knows
Hmm.
one another or knows of each other, and it's a cool sense to kind of come into something that's just bigger than yourself per se. You know what I mean? I love that aspect and just being kind of like connected with a lot more people. Um,
Gotcha.
and that's the reason why I kind of kept doing streams and stuff like that is for that reason, just to kind of connect with a lot more people, hang out with people. I love it whenever people swing by, just kind of hang out. Just I mean, just even just to come in and say hi, hope you have a good stream, and then they leave. Um, like we talked about this the other day, if you are essentially trying to do YouTube or Twitch and you're starting from the bottom, if you're not doing it because you like to do it, then you're kind of doing it for the wrong reason. Like if you're trying to do it for some kind of monetary gain, like say money or fame, notoriety, things of that
Hmm.
things of that nature, you are essentially doing it for the wrong reason. You will get discouraged very fast, and you will more than likely quit very quickly, because as you know, and like we said before, doing these platforms, jumping on these platforms and trying to basically stream or make content on YouTube, it's a grind. It really is a grind. It's not just something
Hmm.
like
Yep.
you can just start doing and then like all of a sudden you just start boom, boom, boom. You're getting follows, you're getting subs, you're getting views. It doesn't work like that. And I mean, it's funny because I've said this to a lot of people in the past whenever I talk to them about this topic or this them starting something like this, and I give them a heads up like this, and yeah, of course they hear me, but they don't understand where I'm coming from with this. Like whenever I say it's a grind, it really is a grind, and the best thing that I could say to give you some kind of help, to kind of push yourself, is to really network with people. If you don't network with people, it's going to be
Hmm.
very, very, very hard for you to grow.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind
Gotcha.
of how I started, and I got into like pretty much streaming and all that.
Cool.
What about
Well,
you, Allied?
so for me, like before, we're going back to the Xbox days. So basically, how I did it was I had an old YouTube channel that it didn't have any Souls content. It was just like a small YouTube channel.
Right.
And for the most part, I wanted to find a way to record my gameplay without a capture card. And with how Twitch is, you can record or have your VODs.
Right.
So I took upon myself to make an account and stream on my Xbox console to make videos for my YouTube. And the first few games I played were like horror games, Outlast, Dead Space, stuff like that,
Right.
and also some Halo. But when I saw how I could actually interact with chat and everything, and from watching like other first streamers from back in the day, I was like, wow, this is actually quite convenient because, like you just said, it's so nice being able to just interact with people when they just come in, say hi, lurk, or whatnot,
Yeah.
compared to like going to a video and reading comments. So I was like, wow, this is actually pretty fun. So it was on an old account, and I won't go into much details, but let's just say like I had to make some needed changes. And as I talked about in our first topic, once I met Nazgul, since I was on Xbox, I took it upon myself to get a PS4, and I basically, after finding some good tips for builds and so on, I eventually made AlliedBlade, and for the
Good
most
name,
part,
by the
the
way.
main yeah, if you're curious to know, like really quick, how I came by AlliedBlade, it started from Xbox, and my profile on Xbox was called Armored Ally, and the reason why is because if anyone is a Gears of War fan, there's an enemy in the game Gears of War 3 called the Armored Cantus, and they were like my favorite mobs, so that's where Armored came from. Where
Okay.
Ally comes from is my days on Halo. I've always been the
Oh.
person who drives the Warthog, always been the one who would like be your teammate, like being like basically your ally for the most part, being your friend. So that's
Yeah.
how I made Ally. So when I shifted over to PlayStation,
Oh,
I took
jeez.
Allied from the last part of it, and Blade comes from my I guess you can say my admir.
I thought it was gone. I saw it disappear. Damn
Nope.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I love lingering.
Oh, it's my favorite
For that
pyromancy.
reason.
Out of all the
Oh
game's
gosh.
pyromancies, lingering is my favorite. It is.
Yep.
It's like
It
a
is.
top tier pyromancy spell that is even better than
Seething
seething
chaos.
chaos.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah, way better.
Yep. But to go back, so basically, I took a blade because and trust me, it's not because of just the katana, but it was mainly my admiration for the weapons in Dark Souls, and
Okay.
I felt it was more fitting, being a Souls game. So that's how I came up with the AlliedBlade. And after finding Nazgul and doing some invasions myself, here I am. So
Right.
you could say initially Twitch was literally meant just for YouTube, but oh nice. I more so turned it into like how we have here the community thing, and also from your comments about enjoying the game or not enjoying the game, enjoying Twitch. The main thing you want to do as a new streamer is you don't want to, for the most part, care about just the care about viewers. I
Yeah.
say don't even consider it. What you should just consider is making sure you're having a good time, you're
Yep.
talking with your audience, and all in
Trying to
all, be
connect with
yourself.
people. Yeah, trying to
Because
connect
the
with people
truth
and be
is,
yourself. Yes, I agree. I'm sorry to
yeah,
interject there, but
no,
you're
no, you're fine,
absolutely
you're
right.
fine,
You're absolutely right.
fine. Because for the most part, if you try to act like Chase the Bro or G9 or some of the top tiers, you're doing it for the wrong reason, and you're not really going to thrive on Twitch. A good example was like when Commander Swede hosted this, or he rated this one new player on DS3. Literally chosen, all he would do, like literally every second, um, after Swede rated him, he just said to his friend or his brother, "Hey, dude, I just got 50 or 10 viewers or so. Hey, man, I got 2 viewers. Oh wow, I lost 3 viewers. Hey, man, I got another view. Oh wow, I lost 5 viewers." Dude, I'm not exaggerating. That's all he would
He
said.
would say that like every time he would lose viewers and shit
Yes,
like
yes, dude. He didn't even say thank
that.
you for the raid. He didn't even say
Wow,
thank you for the
come on,
raid. Yes.
man. I mean, that goes exactly what we were kind of saying earlier, though, about if you come into somebody's chat, I mean, obviously, if you come into somebody's chat for the first time and like they've never seen you or they don't even know who you are, you should at least say hi and not just like say some controversial statement or try to say something that pertains to what the streamer is saying or talking about. You know what I mean? Like, you should at least be like, "Hey, man, what's up?" Blah blah blah. I mean, I don't know. It's just proper etiquette. I mean, that's the same thing if you get raided and you're streaming.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Especially with getting rated. Like the fact that he didn't say thank you clearly, because it clearly showed that he wasn't, for the most part, he was doing Twitch like just for that reason.
Yeah.
And trust me, the audience will easily catch on to that. If they see
Oh,
that
big
you're not
time.
even willing
Yes.
to show like small appreciation, they're not going to stick with you. They're
Ooh.
not.
Ooh. Ow.
Chaos Storm, baby.
I'm surprised it doesn't launch me because I mean I don't have very much poise.
Yep. But all in all, it's like, for the most part, if I had to go into another part of it,
Ow.
some would say like, how do some people get tons of views or followers? And it's like I said, or to what you also mentioned, networking. Going to other streams not for the sole purpose of getting views, but because you want to support them, you like their content. All in all, just like showing your appreciation and, like I said, networking. But also to give another kind of hard truth, and I don't come off as trying to sound demeaning when I say this.
Yes.
In some situations, for the most part, you may not give viewers because maybe someone or the chat just doesn't like your personality or just don't like your content. And I'm not trying to sound really bad or anything, but it's like
Jeez.
there isn't but so much you can do in that aspect. GG. It's like really for the most part, I just say really just be yourself. The people
Yes.
who appreciate you will come. That's what I
Yes.
say. They
Yeah.
will eventually join.
Like you said, it's kind of come down to like people like we've been discussing. People just do it for the wrong reasons, and it's like if you're not doing it just to have fun and just because you enjoy doing it, you were like I said earlier, you were definitely doing streaming or YouTube just in general for the wrong reasons. You shouldn't because trust me, you got to be investing a lot of time into this if you want to really grow and really get bigger and stuff like that. And you're gonna have a lot of growing pains. It's not something that happens overnight. Rome wasn't built overnight. You got to build from the ground up. Another thing too is like you can't. It's kind of been drilled into people's head to like kind of like fake it till you make it. Like you were saying, like putting on a facade or trying to be somebody else that they're not, and that you definitely should not do that because, like you said, eventually your audience, your viewers, whether it be YouTube or Twitch, are eventually going to see through your act or see through that's not who you exactly are, and they're going to stop coming. They're going to stop supporting you. The whole thing. It's like nobody likes it whenever they're being lied to, you know. So I mean that's definitely something that I feel like newer streamers or YouTubers should really take into consideration before jumping in.
Right. And I guess like like probably another thing to at least kind of touch upon. I think like if I remember correctly, I think it was Lee who said it. How like trying to copy other people, like how I kind of mentioned, won't work either. You want to have content that's unique.
Yes.
Kind of like have essentially your own kind of like things for
Your
people
own
to look at.
brand. Your own brand.
Yeah, your own brand.
You want
Thank
to
you.
brand yourself, pretty much, and you want to be original, not fucking somebody else that's already established themselves. And obviously it's somebody that you yourself, from the way you are acting or from what you're at least showing, like not necessarily idolize, but look up to per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with looking up to someone for like as an idea, but don't like copy and paste the kind of stuff they do.
Copy and paste it. Yeah, exactly. Don't do that. Oh, ooh, I thought I had no stamina.
So
Yeah.
I guess like for the most part, at least I kind of like more so like give my main like tips to someone if they're trying to get into streaming and they want to know the best way to do so. As before, number one, be yourself. Number two, when you stream, play a game you want to play. Trust me when I tell you, do not play a game you hate all because you want to get views. Because Chosen, didn't you tell me? Remember the network test for Elden Ring? It cost no, the codes didn't cost anything. But remember, we found out there were people who sold the codes for like $500, and there were people
yes.
buying those codes. And like, did you say that they were hoping to get viewers because of that stuff?
Oh, at least from my opinion and my perspective, it's like I was telling you, like it's not necessarily like the regular players that are like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm gonna spend $400 or $500 on a code, just because it doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense to spend $400 or $500 on on a code that you only essentially get 15 hours of gameplay, and on top of it, not just 15 hours, but like limited time too. Like you have like certain times that you're allowed to actually play,
Right.
and that just doesn't make any sense to me. So the only thing I can think of is whenever people are trying to, people are actually buying these codes, is that they're doing it because they're trying to get some kind of monetary gain, Oh, you backstepped into that. GG's.
Nice. GG.
They're trying to get some kind of monetary gain, you know what I mean? So whether it be like views
Right.
or, viewers on like a stream or whatever, that's really what it comes down to. And I know there's a lot of people that actually did kind of benefit from that, in a sense. Like they probably just started a YouTube channel and they started posting Elden Rings, the Elden Ring closed network test stuff. And they're easily like, they've got a few hundred some odd people. Hey, go lay down now. Sorry, my dog. Go lay down now. What are you doing? Go lay down. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody.
It's all good. Dude.
But yeah, what was I saying exactly? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
People who had gained like some attention from buying the codes and playing a little bit and posting
a
on
few
YouTube.
people, like, okay, for instance, like for YouTube at least. I know there is like some random, and I'm not hating on any of these people. I don't know them, but I know for a fact they probably just made a YouTube channel and they've got at least a few hundred some odd subscribers, and thousands of views from the closed network test, that they were allowed, that they actually got access to play. And like I said, no hate on them for doing that, but it just seems like that's a good example of like what we were talking about. Like it's like they're I'm more than likely certain that they paid, or even if they didn't pay, they know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're essentially doing it, or putting that content up because they know that they're going to get views. They know that people are going to be looking for it because not everybody and their brother got access to the closed network test.
True. But it's still so baffling how like people were willing to like more so give up money that could pay a bill over a game that's not even out yet, and it's like the game will be available to you forever for $60. Why bother
Right.
paying that kind of money for a network test? And then to add to it though, I think Stray told me like there were people disconnecting, like you said. I don't know
Yes.
if you mentioned it. There were players disconnecting on the network test, and
Yes.
like I don't even understand that logic. It's a network test. You're gaining nothing. You're getting nothing.
Right.
Like gaining or you're not gaining or losing anything. It's like it's a test. It's meant to help out FromSoft see what they need to adjust when the game goes live. And the fact that you're being so stubborn because I don't want to get invaded, literally just shows right then and there that like FromSoft, like I think to your point, needs to really put a handle on people who do crap like that.
So to touch on that, so apparently, if you disconnected in the network test, you actually got a penalty for that. I think you did. Yep.
Oh wow.
Damn, that was a lot. That was like, oh.
That was crazy.
I did not mean to do
go
that.
ahead. No, you're fine, dude. You're fine. But go ahead. Go ahead.
But no, like there's people, at least from what I heard, if they disconnected on the network test, they actually took a penalty. Like they took a timeout penalty from being able to play online, like or playing the network test at all. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
exactly how it worked, but I know that's at least from hearing what Peeve talked about, Peeve Peverson. He said that, and you know what? I honestly hope that they take that penalty and they apply it to the game whenever it's launched, on release date. Because, in my opinion, since they've gotten rid of the solo invasions, there's really no reason why you should be disconnecting. There's no
Exactly.
reason. There's no reason.
Exactly.
If you're disconnecting, I mean, obviously, plain and simple, if you're disconnecting, you are essentially showing that you are a sore loser. That's what it comes down to, and you are cheating. And people can agree or disagree with me with that statement, but you are not giving the invader any souls, any covenant items, or anything like that. Now, granted, we all know this, or at least us veterans invaders, we know this, that we don't really, for the most part, care to invade for covenant items or whatever. I'm not about to fucking walk into that. We're gonna get that out of the way now. Wow, that
So
still
tagged
hit
you.
me. Damn.
But go ahead. Yeah, like
Um,
we're not here for covenant items, like you were saying.
yes. So it's like, um, we're there just to invade for the most part. Just to invade, just to uh, just to fight multiple people. At least that's why I invade. I invade to fight multiple people. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I want a 1v1, right? I will go to the arena. I will go to the arena. I will go to a duelist hotspot area, like Pontiff's
Right.
backyard for like a fight club or whatever. Or
Yeah, exactly.
I will go on DS2 to the Iron Keep Bridge, um, and put my sign down if I want to do 1v1s, whether I be a Dragon Bro or whether I put down my red sign, whatever. Still, I know, like, you as an invader, or at least you as a PvP player, should know where the hot spots are for doing duels. So it's like if I'm invading, I don't care to come across 1v1s, And I know that kind of contradicts of like, well, you shouldn't be upset about the fact that they took out solo invasions in Elden Ring, and if you're not looking for 1v1s. Okay, but here's the deal. Like I said, for longevity's sake, um, you can invade solos, but they can get help with blues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can essentially turn into a gank, gonk, whatever you want to call it. And that's essentially what I'm looking for. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in 2018? Like the game was like, wow,
What the
that was
heck?
crazy. You saw that?
What the heck was
I did a
that?
complete
Yep.
180. Damn,
I
damn.
told you, DS2 tracking is amazing. But go ahead, you were saying.
Um, what was I saying exactly? That surprised me.
uh,
Wow.
you were saying something about 2018 or whatnot.
2018, like the game was pretty like very inactive. I mean, it definitely wasn't like the golden. Well, not 2018, late 2019 going into 2020. I would say that like 2018 was still pretty active, but yes, those times that I said like 2019, late 2019, the game wasn't as active as it was like during its golden years. However, wow, I walked into that.
However, though, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
However, I could invade solo hosts. Wow, I was a full roll away. I still got sucked into that. Damn. However, like I said, oh my god. Oh wow.
You can invade solo hosts. Go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
Holy shit! All right, enough of this. Come here.
Sorry, chat. I think we're just getting GG. Sorry, chat. I think we're just getting to the mood here.
You're just kicking the shit out of me right there. And I was like, dude, I'm getting hit with everything. You're throwing the fucking kitchen sink at me included. Shit. So back to what I was saying with solo invasion. So like essentially I could like now granted some people may not like what I'm about to say, but essentially what I would do is I would just toy with the solo and just wait till he got back up from from blues coming in, and then that would turn into a gank gonk situation that I was looking for. Now, granted, whenever I talk about these scenarios, I'm not talking about Gank City. That's a different story. And don't get me wrong, Gank City never really died. But at the same time,
no.
let me just say this outright right now. Gank City gets very, very boring, especially whenever you played this game for 5 years. You played DS3 for 5 years straight. Okay, so for me, I don't go to Gank City at all. I hate going there. I actually went there 2 weeks ago, two weekends ago from where we currently are right now, and that was only to try to co-invade with Lance.
I gotcha.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, that was one of the worst decisions that I made in a while from playing DS3. Trying to co-invade with somebody, it was horrible. It really was. I like many other players loathe Gank City. It's very unfun. Put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because that it's got the tryhard ganks. That's not the reason why it's unfun. It's unfun because it's a place where everybody's been playing for the past, like I said, 5 years. So it's like the whole running around, parkouring, and with the cat ring and everything. Like that shit gets old. Just saying. I mean, at least in my opinion, it gets old after doing it for 5 years.
Right. I hear you.
So I mean that's just like I said. That's my opinion on that.
Oh yeah, I totally hear you, dude. I mean, like Gank City for the most part has like become more or less like the main I guess like a breeding ground for like all the obnoxious things you see. And
yes.
Don't get me wrong, it's definitely a hot spot, but yeah, it's like there you're just gonna find the most like craziest things, and it's honestly can be kind of boring. So I totally hear you in that regard.
Woo!
What the heck was that?
It was a slow ass jump attack. I think I was out of stamina. That's the reason why I jumped like that.
I can't say I've seen that before. But yeah, so I think like for the most part, since you were like talking about like how invasions were like back in the day with the solo, I guess like to kind of like more so go back to what we mentioned before with Elden Ring. The fact that there's no solo invasions more so can I won't say it's a game breaker because remember
No.
it's open world and we don't know for sure like how it goes. So I would just say to more so kind of wrap up the topic or to kind of wrap things up in this regard. When Elden Ring comes out, let's just see how the game is. Let's see what FromSoft has given to us, and make the most out of it.
Yes.
I for the most part won't give it a cold shoulder. I'll test it, do what I can to make builds, and really more so see like what can be missing for it.
Very spam.
And all in all, I think in that regards, we'll probably have the most fun with it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the one
I
thing
guess,
one thing I can say
go ahead.
about Elden Ring real quick is like, so with looking forward to it, right? Best thing I can say for anybody who's coming from like if DS3 was like your first original Soulsborne game and PvP game is just go into Elden Ring and don't try to play it like it's DS3. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yes,
don't
yes.
do that. It's a totally different game, and I know a lot of people, that's the reason why it's kind of getting the hate that it's getting, because it's not the same game, you know what I mean? And I stated this earlier, and it's funny because I'm stating what St. Riot stated and what Martyrs Brigade originally stated, is like, there's always the community that hates the new game simply because it is different. It is not the same game,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really what it comes down to. They just hate the fact that it's a completely different game.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I knew you were going to get it eventually.
I should have swapped,
man.
but it's all good.
You're all good, man. But go ahead, though. They're going to hate the game, and
They're going to hate the game because it's not the same game, Like, it's different. Plain and simple. That's it.
yeah, knows the risk.
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
Good game. But to end this, right? To end this podcast, for instance, is on this note is that just try to go into Elden Ring open-minded, right? Don't treat it like it's DS3. Try to have fun with it, and just have fun learning the new things and the different things that are available to you on Elden Ring. That's why a lot of people, I find over the years, because I've been, like I said, I started playing back in OG DS1, is that people don't like change, and that's human nature, plain and simple. But it's like, if you would just like play the game with an open mindset, just take it all in, you're gonna have a better experience in that regard, and that's pretty much all I'm gonna say.
Yep, and it's like my final comment. It's just like with DS2. DS2, for anyone here, and this is like not to bash anyone whatsoever.
Right.
DS2 gets hate. I understand because of soul memory, and I understand because of ADP. But
Yeah.
if you play DS2 with a fresh mindset and get DS3 out of it, and really learn to adapt with it because of how unforgiving it is, I can
Yes.
assure you, for the most part, especially with PvP, you will enjoy it. And it's like, all in all, though, to your point, just approach it with a different mindset, and you might enjoy it. If not, that's totally fine. The Souls games is not for everyone. I won't,
No.
force anyone to say that you should play this. No, if it's not your game, it's not your game, and I understand.
Right.